Hey, welcome to Living a Good Life, and we're at our next episode, and I'm really super excited today because we're here with Mr. Greg Mengarelli at the world's oldest rodeo, which is right here in our beautiful hometown of Prescott, Arizona. Greg, thanks for joining me today and giving us a tour and just explaining to us like a little bit about the world's oldest rodeo. And I hear might get a tour, get to see some of the things that happened, but yeah, it's quite a distinction to be the world's oldest rodeo. So give us a little history of how are we the world's oldest rodeo and how far back does that go?
Right, so our rodeo started in 1888, and really what qualifies you is you have to have a contestant who paid an entry fee, you have to have a spectator that paid to get into the event, and then you have to have a prize or prize money. And so that for us started in 1888.
Wow.
And we've had a rodeo every year. And that's pretty amazing to think about, Brad, when you think about world wars that we went through.
Yep.
And even a pandemic not too long ago. That was a little bit of a challenge in 2020, but we're so proud to be the world's oldest rodeo. We love the history around our rodeo and the traditions. And this year, the theme is Prescott Traditions. So we're doing a lot this year, looking back on many of the legends that have competed here in our rodeo and kind of highlighting them, as well as the historic ranches around the area here that have contributed to the rodeo.
So I want to give a shout out to you because we are the world's oldest rodeo because we have continuous operation, and you helped us through one of those issues that you might mention there with the pandemic, and you were our mayor at the time and doing a great job, and you managed as mayor to have a calm head, really steady hand on it, say we're going to have a rodeo, we're going to make sure this happens, and you took care of the people here, took care of the livestock, and we didn't have a missed year, so we kept the designation. Because if we would have missed that year, we would have lost the continuous operation, because that's our length. It's continuous operation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You know, it was a team effort, Brad. I was so proud to be a part of the team that kept the rodeo going. JC Trujillo, who was the general manager at the time, you know, JC
goes way back. How long was he here?
He was here about 16 years as the general manager. He did a tremendous job in elevating our rodeo during that period of time. But he called me in like March of 2020 and said, Greg, are we going to have a rodeo? And I said, absolutely, JC, if it's just you and I out in the arena, we're going to have a rodeo. But you know, it was JC, it was Leslie Horton, our county health director, that did a lot of work. Our board here with Prescott Frontier Days did a great job. And then real important relationship we had with Governor Ducey at that time, who made sure that we were allowed to have the rodeo. And you know, we needed that rodeo. You know, everybody had been kind of locked down and we hadn't, you know, had social events, and everybody just breathed a sigh of relief when we had the rodeo and able to come together. And so proud that we were able to do that.
A little bit of normalcy in the midst of all that chaos.
Right.
And took great leaders, and there were a lot of great leaders you named in there, and you were one of them. So I appreciate you being a part of that and keeping this so we could be here today celebrating the world's oldest rodeo. So 1888, July 4th, that was the first year.
Yep.
Do you know what the prize money was the first year?
I don't know what the prize money was, Brad, but we do have the award. It's actually displayed down at the museum, Charlotte Hall Museum.
Okay.
We have a replica here in the office of that prize. And so probably not a lot of money. Maybe $10 and
but back then $10 was
and a couple whiskeys at Whiskey Row.
There you go.
But yeah, it was a cool little prize that they put together, and so we have it on display here, a replica of it. But over the years, you know, I think with our rodeo, Brad, it was a lot about cowboys and people coming together to celebrate, not just Independence Day, but to celebrate, you know, many times they were out on the ranches for months on end. And so this was an opportunity to come together and have some fun, kick it up, and celebrate Independence Day. And what's cool about it is that's still what we do. You know, you're a Buckle Club member, and when we come into the Buckle Club, there's a lot of people there I don't see for several months, and it's always fun to come together around the rodeo, but it's really about relationships and getting back together and celebrating.
Well, rodeo is roundup in Spanish.
Yes.
So this is a roundup, and you know, ranchers and cowboys do their roundups couple times a year sometimes. And this is a roundup of celebrating people and
Right.
coming together to see the livestock and see the people and the good friends.
Yep. And back then it was local cowboys, right?
Yep.
It was in the 1800s and even in the early 1900s, it was local cowboys showing off their skills, and it's evolved.
Mhm.
You know, now we're a member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. We give away $350,000 in prize money to
Wow.
cowboys and cowgirls. We'll have over 700 cowboys and cowgirls come through during our 8 performances, and many of the top performers will be here. And we need to keep relevant and stay relevant in terms of the top echelon of rodeos. And when we walk around, I'll show you a few things that we need to kind of improve to continue to stay relevant and in that top echelon of rodeos. Because when we started, we were named with the likes of Cheyenne and Pendleton and all the big ones, and we want to stay
Right there.
in that category.
Now, is this rodeo feed cowboys? If you win here, do you go on to, I know the big one is Vegas at the end of the year.
Right.
Is this a feeder to qualify for that?
Yeah, everybody that competes in the PRCA wants to get to the National Finals Rodeo. They
Mhm.
take the top 15 competitors in each event.
Okay.
So yes, money won here goes towards you qualifying for the National Finals Rodeo. And that's kind of simply put, but you know, any money you win here helps you with your earnings get to the finals.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you've had a few cowboys and cowgirls come through here that show up in Las Vegas?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll have some this year
Yeah.
that have been in the national finals a number of years, and they will probably be there again this year. So
this is a big deal. It's a small town. It's
Mhm.
a really great feel of a small town
Yeah.
rodeo
Yeah.
with good people, neighbors, but it's a real deal because these guys are competing for money,
Right.
number one, and it's their lively
Yeah,
for a
that's
lot
right.
of them, the top
Yeah.
ones. And
Yeah.
then they're trying to get to Las Vegas in December.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's always a good show. Not only do we have the top cowboys and cowgirls, we got some great entertainment with specialty acts. We have the Clydesdales coming in
Yeah.
again this year. And so there's something for everyone. It's a great family event. And we always start with a prayer and the national anthem. And I get goosebumps talking about it now.
Yeah.
And certainly during that time, it's always a great tradition of ours to honor the flag and honor the military, honor our first responders. And that's what I love about rodeo.
Well, we appreciate what you do. You think you can take us around and give us a tour of some highlights?
Absolutely. I'd love to. We got some new things going on. I'd love to show you around the facility.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, thanks.
So Brad, we're on the Blue Moon Saloon here overlooking the arena. The Blue Moon Saloon is kind of a cool spot for folks. They can buy a table up here. There's a bar here, some food service, and then it's a great shot, as you can see, of the arena from up here. But I thought I'd bring you up here first just to give you a quick overview of what we're looking at. We've got some new box seats right here below us. So we've had the old ones here that you're familiar with, but
Yeah.
then just below them, we've got a whole nother set of box seats. And a lot of that's due to the fact that Jim Dewey Brown, our general manager, has done such a great job selling sponsorships. When he came, we had about $400,000 of revenue in sponsorships. And the community, as you know, absolutely gets behind our rodeo, the businesses. And he's selling like 1.1 million in sponsorships right now.
Wow.
So he needed more space for those sponsors to sit here because we like to give them some of this premium seating
Sure.
because of their sponsorships. So we can take a look at that later and walk through there. There's the Whiskey River Tavern Corral, and you see it right on the arena fence. And this is something Jim Dewey did that's new, that allows people to be right on the arena fence to really get an up-close personal view of what's going on. Probably a little of the arena dirt flying
Yeah.
up on them during the
Kind of like the old days where you can lean on the corral
Yeah.
a little bit and watch the rodeo.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a great spot
Awesome.
for people to view the rodeo. In the background, you see the Buckle Club, and we can walk
Mhm.
down there a little later. There's a few new improvements with the Buckle Club.
So how many people, what's a sellout?
So we have our historic grandstands here, which of course we'll keep forever. And that's the main seating area. This does about 4,000 people in the
Okay.
grandstands. But in addition to that, here we see some horses coming out. In addition to that, Brad, you've got some seating over here that's for contestants' families.
Okay.
We also have this little bleacher here, and then the Buckle Club will have maybe 150 to 200 people down there. So, you know, just over 4,000 is a sellout, and we have sold out 3 rodeos now in a row. Very proud of that.
3 different years.
Three
So
years.
all 8 shows.
Yep.
For 3 years you've sold out.
Yep.
And this
that's
year
right.
is no exception. So in
Yep.
2024, another sellout year.
Absolutely.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I know that's big. And so the significance of the sponsorships, so 1.1 million, that really helps you elevate. I'm sure some of that goes towards your prize money.
Right.
And the more prize money you get, the bigger names want to come here. You get the better athletes that are coming in to compete. Because I know, like, some years I come here and people are like, well, nobody rode a bull. They just all got thrown off. It's like, well, part of that is the prize money.
That's right.
Those guys that are chasing the big prize money,
That's
go
right.
for it.
That's right. Yeah, we have 2 main revenue streams here at Prescott Frontier Days. One is the sponsors that we talked about. The other is obviously the ticket sales. And so the more people we can get here and the more sponsors we have, the better the prize money.
So if you can expand this, if there's any way you can expand it, and I know you have plans, but that'll just elevate the revenue, which then there's more prize money.
That's right. We do have some big plans we can talk about, but part of it includes expanding seating. So if you could picture some seating behind the buck and shoots, incorporated into the announcer's booth, that would give us the opportunity to get even more people here to experience the rodeo. That would be premium seating back there.
What a great view to be right above when the broncs come out. And,
right. We want to do a better job with the quality of experience for our spectators. You know, I always say we sell a wood bench and a porta-john right now, and it's crazy. We sell out.
So you do,
but
that's what you sell.
It sounds funny, but it's so true, and we want to elevate that experience, and that's much of the improvements that we want to do, making the fan experience even better.
Hey, a little morning yoga out there, gonna get loosened up.
Yeah, we got some horses rolling around out there, so you know, they're in some pens behind the announcer's booth back there, but they like to let them out routinely to give them a little extra exercise. And these are all bucking horses for either bareback riding or saddle bronc riding.
Okay. So how many horses do you have to keep your stock fresh? I mean, you can't overwork the animals.
Yep. So we've had Vold Pro Rodeo with us as a stock contractor since the early 70s.
Wow.
And they're out of Colorado. And I don't know exactly the number of horses we have, but I'm going to tell you they probably have back there somewhere in the neighborhood of like 60 or 70 horses.
Okay.
You know, they take such good care of these horses. You can see how healthy they are.
Well, they're athletes.
Right.
You know,
they
just
are
like
athletes.
the riders. They're
They are.
athletes. They're not just,
Well,
any wild horse.
I wish I had their job because they work about 8 seconds every other day. But yeah, so they get rotated through, and we have lots of.
I don't know if you'd like the conditions they work under, though, Greg. To get them to buck a little bit, those are some pretty compromising conditions.
True. Well, true.
So I'm curious, are they trained for that? Like, because you said they're calm right now, you walk out there, but when they get in the chute, is that something that's just conditioned, or is it actually trained? Like, how do you get to a bronc?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of training that Kirsten Vold goes into with the horses. And of course, part of it's genetics, but they do a lot of practice, and they do a lot of, even without a rider, they have a way to make it feel like there's a rider on them, and they do the flank strap, and they'll practice, if you will, to ensure, because look, a cowboy needs a good buck and bronc to get a good score, because half the score, as you know, is the animal athlete.
Yes.
And if you get a horse that doesn't buck real hard, that's going to hurt your score.
Yeah. Yeah, they get style points.
That's right.
I call them style points.
Yeah,
but
no, that's right.
You gotta barely hanging on, but staying on.
That's right. Yeah. Most of these are coral horses of some sort, or paints.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is just a part of their daily routine. Come out, stretch, roll around.
Right.
They almost all look like they're getting instructions. What's the day? What's our job today?
Yeah, and you know, Brad, these guys are actually pretty gentle. You know, you see them bucking for 8 seconds during a rodeo, and you think, wow, that's a wild, crazy horse. And, you know, they just perform well during those 8 seconds, but I could go out there right now probably and start petting half of these horses, and they'd stand there and just enjoy a little scratch, you know. So they're real gentle horses in this kind of setting, but they know when their job is when their number's up and they need to buck, they will do that.
So how long have you been in your role running the rodeo and being a part of this?
Yeah, I started in the spring of 2021, and the rodeo had recruited me in to help with vision and fundraising.
Okay.
And so I'm the business development manager, and part of my job was a master plan for the rodeo grounds to create a capital project plan. And then the other aspect was just generating more revenue. And so the Buckle Club we started in 2021. And that really was for folks who didn't have a reason to have a banner up in the arena. Maybe they don't have a local business. They might have a regional or national business, or they might be retired, but they just wanted to be involved and they wanted to participate financially. And so it's like a booster club for the rodeo.
Okay.
And all the funds from the Buckle Club go right to Prescott Frontier Days. So it's been a lot of fun. Jim Dewey Brown came in the same time frame, and he's a great general manager and very forward thinking, yet always preserving our traditions here at the world's oldest rodeo.
So I remember a few years back, it always, like growing up here, it always seems like the 4th of July, the parade and the rodeo and summer rains all they all go together. There's always a rain. And I remember it was a few years ago, not too long ago, you guys had a massive thunderstorm and like the arena was just a mud pit.
Right.
And what did you guys do that year to try to dry it out and get ready? Because it was right in the middle, like midweek of all your performances.
Yeah, it is funny how monsoon starts during the rodeo. I think it was John Keekeffer who said, we have a rodeo so that we get rain.
Absolutely. Exactly.
So we do a lot of different things to dry out the arena. You know, even this season, we had some early rains, as you know, and so the guys have been working the arena to get it to dry out. And it looks pretty good right now. And it's very important for animal safety and cowboy safety to have an arena that's got the right composition of soil out there, softness, yet good footing for the horses. One year, we actually had a local helicopter aviation company come in and hover over the arena. It's like a big fan.
Yeah.
And it was hot enough, but we needed to move the air. I think he sat here for 5 or 6 hours at least, drying out the arena. So we do everything we can to make sure we have animal safety in mind, as well as the cowboys.
Yeah, the extent you have to go to keep the show must go on,
That's
as they
right.
say in show business.
And
right?
sometimes it's just going to be sloppy, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a lot of people are excited about your plans for expansion and enhancement.
Yes.
And it's just upgrading. I mean, if we think 1888, what did this arena look like? What did people probably just leaned up against the fence, kind of like we are right now, and that's how they watched it. And then eventually bleachers and eventually beer stands, and so you got to stay current and relevant.
Right.
So you've talked a lot about how you're trying to keep the rodeo and the rodeo grounds relevant, current. Sometimes people hear the word expansion and they get, oh my God, we're going to lose the charm of the world's oldest rodeo. Because you look up here and you got red, white, and blue bleachers. They're blue, they're wood. It's got a lot of nostalgia. So how do you execute on your vision of keeping the rodeo relevant, getting your sponsorships up like you talked about, because that brings in the better athletes, and keeping that nostalgia?
Yeah, so there's several things there, Brad, I would say. Number one, keeping the rodeo here on these historic rodeo grounds is really important to us for the history and the tradition, but also for the local businesses. We're not very far from downtown and Whiskey Row. And so I think having this rodeo grounds kind of in the central part of Prescott is a big deal, and it's important. But this is hallowed ground. I don't know how else to say it. It really is hallowed ground all the way back to the racetrack days. You're familiar with that. But I think the grandstand we will keep forever. Just this architecture, these were built in the 30s. Really, when I look up in these grandstands during a performance, it gives me chills seeing all the people in here and and just knowing that this has been here since the 1930s. So we would keep this structure generally. We'd like to upgrade seating. So there's kind of little pieces of it that we will upgrade to improve the spectator's experience, but we want to keep the architecture of that grandstand.
So it's kind of like walking through a museum in a sense. You can walk around and you can see some of, I don't know how far back you can point to a date of something that's here, but you just said the 30s, and then that was done in the 50s. And so there's a little bit of history that comes with, keeping it relevant. And then there's going to, somebody 20 years from now is going to say, oh, that was done in the 20s, 2020s, not the 1920s.
Right.
So that's kind of, people love history, and I think they got to understand that history keeps advancing, and we're just got to keep with it, keep adding our footprint to this great tradition.
Yeah, and I think you can do both, right? You can honor the traditions and the history, and you need to stay relevant to be a top tier rodeo, and that's what we want to do. And so that's why the improvements to improve the quality of experience for the spectator, but also, we need to make sure the cowboys have a great experience as well. Some of the improvements include indoor stalls for horses, which really helps the cowboys. These cowboys run around in these trailers with their horses in there all over the country. To get here to have a really nice indoor stall is now more important than it used to be. Yeah. Horses are running 50,000 to 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure cowboys feel comfortable with the facilities here and bring in their animals here.
Yeah. I mean, it's an investment.
Right.
I don't think people realize, who would have thought $50,000 for a horse or 100?
Right.
And a cutting horse.
Right.
I mean, those are aren't those at the upper end of, those are really.
They are. They can
animals.
Be more like $250,000. And we haven't been able to do those kinds of events, whether it's cuttings or horse shows or, the higher end horse events, because we don't have the facility, and we'd like to be able to do that.
So if you get those facilities, and you can start attracting those.
Yes.
Somebody's coming in with a $250,000 or $500,000 investment. If they got a couple of them,
right,
they're only going to the best facilities in the country.
Yeah, that's right. And we have a great climate, as you know.
Yep.
So there's about 6 months out of the year where we could really compete with Phoenix, where people don't want to go down to the valley where it's hot. We'd have the opportunity to have them up here. And these are people that spend a lot of money when they're in town. And when I was the mayor, I always felt like, hey, a tourism dollar is always the best one, because you don't have to take care of services, basic services for those people, but they're up here spending money, generating economic development that helps you pay for our residents' basic services.
Well, rodeo weekend is the biggest weekend in as far as tourism for Prescott, isn't it? When you capture those,
it is.
You could say 7 days, but it's probably more like 10 days because people come a little early. And
that's right. Yeah, we feel like I've heard from businesses that say, look, without rodeo week, I don't know that I could survive the year without that. And we struggled with that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think, people have to realize we also put on the parade. So Prescott Frontier Days not only does 8 performances here, we also put on the parade, second largest parade in the state. And so people do come for 2 or 3 nights, and they're spending money here, and we always need those outside dollars coming in. And it is the biggest week of the year. I think it generates over the course of a year some $40 million in just economic GDP spending.
The rodeo grounds in a 12-month period.
That's right.
And the biggest event of that 12 months is
the rodeo.
So
the lion's share of that $40 million is going to happen here
over about 8 days.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's go take a look at the Buckle Club.
Yep, let's do it.
So this is the Buckle Club, and I know this is kind of, you said 2021, you introduced this as kind of part of your enhancements and evolution of the experience. But this year you added these bleachers where you get to be right on the arena. So talk a little bit about this. And
yeah, no, this will be a lot of fun here, Brad. We have these little bleachers right on the arena fence, and so I have Buckle Club members who really want to watch the rodeo, and then I have other social butterflies that just want to talk to people. And so, which is fine, different strokes for everybody, but this will allow folks that really want to watch the rodeo to be right here in on the action. And, I'm excited about expanding the Buckle Club because we haven't had enough space, so this will give us a lot more space. We talked a little bit about generating revenue from the Buckle Club, and I would mention that since 2021, we will have raised about $1 million this year since our inception in 2021.
Wow. From the Buckle Club.
From the Buckle Club, yeah.
So a big, important part of the overall economics of the rodeo.
Yeah.
How many members are in the Buckle Club?
So we have 80 plus members
Nice.
right now. And so we hope to get to about 100 members here in the next year or so. And people typically come to me when they find out what it's about and they just want to help out. And I always say a Buckle Club member, you know, it's more about what you're giving than what you're getting. Because this is not about, you know, in proportion to what you're spending annually, you're not getting the benefit of that just from being in the Buckle Club. And they understand that and they're all on board for it because they really want to help the rodeo.
So one of the fun events that I think is just exciting is the mutton busting. Talk to me about mutton busting. What are the age groups and is it every night?
Right. Yeah. So Jim Dewey Brown started this. I think this is going to be our third rodeo with mutton busting. And, you know, this is another way to get youth and family involved in the rodeo. You can see over there the APS sign. That's where we have the little bucking chutes for the mutton busting. We do it every night. I think it's an hour and a half before the rodeo. So if you come early, you can watch mutton busting. Kids have to be 4 years old. I'm not sure the cutoff on the upper end, but it's probably around 7 or 8.
Okay.
And we'll buck probably 20 kids in mutton busting every night. And it's a lot of fun. My grandson, I think he rode last year about 1.9 seconds.
Is he coming back?
He's coming back.
He's got a goal now? Got to get to 2 or 3?
His dad's getting him pumped up and ready. I think they've been practicing on his dad's back.
Oh my gosh.
But
what are they riding?
What's that?
What are they riding?
So they're riding sheep. Yeah,
Sheep?
mutton
Okay.
busting. They're riding sheep out of there. And so they have a little helmet on and a little chest protector vest, and they have a lot of fun. It's very good to get families out here and involved that way. So,
well, rodeo is a family event. I mean, it truly is. There's a lot going on other than just the event itself, but it truly is family. And it, as we talked earlier, it brings people together. And sometimes you only see them once a year right here.
Yep.
It's important to have that connection.
right. You know, something else we do that people may not know about. We do a lot of giving in the community, scholarships and things, but we do an exceptional champions rodeo, and that's going to happen during the rodeo, during the day. We're going to bring kids with some special needs into the arena, and they get to have their own rodeo experience.
Awesome.
And
That's during rodeo week.
During rodeo week, we got just a tremendous response with families who wanted their children to be a part of that rodeo, and it's so fun for us to do and so rewarding for the kids and the families.
That's great. I'm glad you're able to do that and have some more contestants out here.
That's
Bring
right.
More families out. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate the tour, the history. Really appreciate what you do for the community, what this organization does for the community, because it really is it is our community. This is a big part of it. It's kind of the soul of our community, and we got to keep the rodeo strong. And so I appreciate all that you do.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's a real pleasure to work here. I love working with Jim Dewey Brown, our general manager. Our board does a great job. We have a great team of volunteers, and so it's just a real pleasure and honor for me to work with the rodeo. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Congratulations on another sellout season.
All right. Thanks, Brad.